This is the CAD Whisperer. Let's get started by rendering still images in Autodesk Inventor. For first rendered image, you'll use this assembly that I provide to you, or you can use one of your favorite files, example of some work that you have done. The first thing I want to do is, let's assume that this is going to go into a lab report, say for your senior project. In that case, I don't want to print all of this background, so I'm going to change the background to white. And so I will go to Tools, Application Options, and then on the Colors tab, I will set this to Presentation and one color, and I'll say OK to that. And now our background is white. Alright, we also might not want this browser over here, and so I can close that. Now, one of the questions that comes up all the time is, I accidentally closed that, how do I get that back? If you go to the View tab in User Interface, you can turn the browser or the navigation bar, whatever you need, back on. In this case, I'm going to leave it off. Alright, I might also want to turn off this origin indicator so that it doesn't appear in my images. And so I'll go back to the Tools, Application Options, and I will go to the Display tab and turn off the 3D indicator, the labels, and so now that is not visible. Now, I might also turn these off, but I think what I'll do is I'll just keep my image over here and I will crop those away. Alright, now I normally work with Visual Style shaded edges turned on, but when we get ready to do our images, we may want to turn that off. If I go to the View tab, and I'm going to go to Visual Style, and I'm going to go to this Realistic Visual Style, and that gives me a better image. I might also want to change it to a perspective view, and so I can change this either from orthographic or a perspective view. Perspective view, things that are closer to you look bigger, things that are further away from you appear to be smaller. And so I'll leave that up to you to decide how you want your image to appear. Now, in changing this visual style, I can come up here and do this, and for the assignment I want you to do a couple of different images. I want you to do realistic, and I also want you to do a sketch illustration. This could be really useful for a patent drawing. Now, this image doesn't look exactly like what a patent drawing would look like, but it's somewhat similar. And so if you gave, though, this image to the patent artist, then they could create their image for the patent drawing much more quickly from this image than from the color shaded realistic image. And so I would, go ahead and do this sketch illustration. Check out all of these different illustration types. To get to this, we went to the View tab, but you can also come over here and click on this down arrow and tell it to load the visual styles over here. And so now these visual styles are on a drop down over here. I could also put these up here on a quick access to get them get to those much more quickly. Now, we could just do a screen capture right here, and we could do that a couple of different ways. We could hit print screen on the keyboard, and that puts the image onto the clipboard, or we could load the Windows snipping tool. If I go to the Start program and I type in snip, if I go to Windows Start, and I'm going to, you won't be able to see this, but I'm going to, I went to the Windows Start icon, and I did snipping tool, and it will come up then with this snipping tool that then I can do a screen capture of whatever area of the screen that I want. So, for example, if I wanted this image, I could screen capture that. I'm going to just discard that. So a couple of different ways we could get the images from right here. But I want to experiment with getting rendered images. And on this object now, I can have it oriented like this, uh, or I might, since this object is really long, I might orient it sideways and then rotate my image after I get it captured. So do some experimentation on how you want to capture your image. I guess I'll leave it up here like this at first. And so I'm going to go to the Environments tab, and I'll select Inventor Studio, and then we will do Render Image. Now I want you to experiment with the settings in here. Now in the end, what we want is an image that will appear really nicely plotted out on a 3-foot by 2-foot sheet of paper, or 36 by 24 inch sheet of paper. So we need a really high resolution image to print out that big and make it look good. Now I want you to experiment with these different settings, and I'll leave those up to you to see the results that you get. Again, you might lay this long part over on its side and then rotate the image once you get it saved. Now I want you to save it in several different file formats so that you can compare those different file formats by quality and by the I want you to save it in several different file formats so you can compare those files by quality and the size of the files. I've opened up the assembly in SolidWorks, and the first thing I want to do is make sure that I have a white background. So I'm going to come to over here and set this to plain white, and because I'm going to do, well, I may or may not want shadows on, but keep in mind this is going to be put in a printed document, so I might make sure that I have shadows turned off. I see that I have an error symbol over here that there's some issues with some of the parts, so I'm not going to fix all of them, but I'll drill down here, and I see on this lens cap that there's a problem with that, so I'm going to right click and I will open up that file, and it asks if I want to run feature recognition. I don't want to run the feature recognition. Now I've got some problems, and it probably has to do with this helix on here. So let's right click on this, and I'm going to tell it to run the import diagnostics, and it found some problems, and I could tell it to show me that particular face. I could zoom into it, and so it is part of that thread, and I'm going to just go ahead though and tell it to attempt to heal those errors, and it successfully healed all of the errors, and so now I'm ready to go. Now I want this part to be transparent, and I might also select a material for the part. But I think I'll just right click here, and I'll go to the appearances, and I'm going to change that appearance, and I might try to find some material that is glass or whatever, but a clear plastic polycarbonate. I think what I'll do though is for this stage I'll just go in and select a light gray color, and then I'm going to expand this column here, and then just click here to make that a transparent color. Now I may go in and do some adjustment on that to make that more or less transparent, change the reflectivity, so forth, but we'll hold off on doing that later. And now we can see that that is transparent. I probably want to make that reflector a chrome color. Go through and put the colors on parts to make it look aesthetically pleasing. Then for the objective of this lab, I'm going to go to the add-ins and make sure that the PhotoView 360 add-in is loaded. Once you have the PhotoView 360 add-in loaded, if you go to Render Tools, you'll see the tools for creating a rendered image. In this case, I've put a region box around the area that I want to have rendered, and then I would click on Final Render and go through the process of rendering a part. I want you to go do some experimentation on your own on this first to see what kind of results that you can get.